Because birth dates were not recorded, this person's father simply wrote February 2nd, 1915, when he admitted his son to modern school, Delhi. Now, when his grandmother remembered that he was born in August, but she couldn't remember the date. So what this gentleman did was he just took the middle of the month as his birthday. That August 15th will be my birthday. So who was this person who described himself as one who spared neither man nor God?
Khushwant Singh?
Yes, it is Khushwant Singh. Famous Khushwant Singh, the one and only Khushwant Singh, I would say. So this is a cartoon by Mario of Khushwant Singh. It used to appear, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure whether it was the Illustrated Weekly those days, with Malice was one on all, and it was his column.
When Partition was declared, Khushwant Singh was actually in Lahore. Before being a writer, I think many of us know that he was a lawyer. And he was in Lahore, and Muhammad Ali Jinnah sent a letter to him through his father, Sir Sobha Singh, saying that you should stay on in Lahore to become a judge at the High Court there. And Khushwant Singh deliberated on this fact and then finally decided to come to India during Partition. And he drove from Lahore to Delhi. And when he was driving, he is recorded to say that the streets were completely empty and there was not a soul inside, and he could not recognize Punjab as he drove through it, which eventually obviously went on to inspire Train to Pakistan. The line that you have in the quiz, here lies one who spared neither man nor God, is actually the line he wrote himself for his epitaph. And when he died, he asked that part of his ashes be immersed in Hadali, where he's from. So there's a plaque in Hadali where his ashes were kind of scattered around, and there is the plaque, and it says, a Sikh, a scholar, and son of Hadali.
Nice. Very interesting, very interesting. I was fascinated to hear about the oral histories about Partition. What got you interested in it?
I think part of what got me interested in it was the fact that the millennial generation doesn't know enough about Partition, the way it happened to common people. It really dawned on me that every single person had a unique experience when it came to Partition, and it was very important to understand that Partition was an event of versions. So essentially what I do is go around recording people's first-hand experiences to the extreme accuracy with which they remember them, because these memories are often quite nuanced. I had a book come out about it in 2017. It's the 3rd anniversary this year. The book is called Remnants of a Separation.
One thing that I noticed, a few people gave Salman Rushdie as the answer to the question.
Yes.
And that was interesting because Khushwant Singh was the first person in India who felt that satanic verses should not be published. So he actually advised Penguin, the publisher, that this book will actually inflame sentiments and it's inappropriate to publish it.
Are you sure that was Khushwant Singh or Iqbal Masood?
No, I think Khushwant was the one that Penguin had hired as an external reader.
And the first negative review came from Iqbal Masood, right?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay.
Khushwant didn't say it publicly. He advised Penguin privately that I don't think you should publish it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure if everybody's read Train to Pakistan, any sort of comments on this?
I do remember it was made into a film as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pamela something, I've forgotten the director.
Yes.
And can I just say, Aanchal's work is so fascinating because she specialized in physical objects, and it's the oral histories are really a testimony to how much memory is embodied in physical objects.
Thank you, Vikram. That's really kind of you. I think that I was very surprised that when I started this work, no one had looked at trauma through objects, which of course has been done many times. And there is a lot of interesting things that come up when you start talking to people about what they remember and not look at political accounts of the time.
The panelists wanted to speak about this famous photograph.
Oh yes, we have this photograph. Yes.
I think Aanchal knows much more about this. I mean, the one thing...
Yeah, actually, what's fake about this photograph and what's true about this photograph?
No, I mean, I feel a bit obsessed with this photograph because I've done a lot of work on the photographer who took it. So many of us think that Margaret Bourke-White was the only Life magazine photographer in India at the time of Partition. But in fact, there was another man photographing the event. His name was David Duncan Douglas. And he has this incredible library of photographs from the Indian Partition to the Korean Wars. And he has an incredible collection of photographs on Pablo Picasso, whom he was a good friend of. So David Duncan Douglas died just 2 years ago at the age of 102. And this photograph it's a real photograph taken on August 18, 1947. And the reason that it was taken, I think, for dramatic effect is probably because everything that was imperial, at least, was being divided between India and Pakistan after partition was announced. And the man in the photograph is B.S. Keswan, who went on to become the first National Librarian of independent India. Here he is at the Imperial Secretariat Library trying to divide these, I guess, 150,000 books, I guess. But eventually the collection was not divided because they said that things that were of imperial nature, like books, I don't know why they said that, could not be divided. But also it was ridiculous.
There's a sort of weird fact in a recent book, Barney Spanner White's book about Partition, where he was, I think he was the assistant to Radcliffe. And he said that he writes over there that Radcliffe, when he came to India, gave him one order: just go and buy me as much white wine as possible. So he went to the Delhi Thekas and got as much Riesling, I think it was. And it was on the basis of Riesling that Radcliffe sat down and did his division of India, which is a strange thought.
Radcliffe had a really difficult time in India, right? Because he arrived and he was given 5 weeks to partition the nation. And I'm still kind of trying to figure out how I feel about Radcliffe, seeing that he divided India, but who would have been able to do a good enough job in that situation, I guess. But he had 5 weeks to divide it, and eventually he ended up burning all of his papers and all his documents from his time here.
And he refused his fee, which I think is to his credit. He refused his fee.
And Ram Madhwani made a film about him, a 10-minute film called This Bloody Line. He made a beautiful film about Radcliffe reading that poem in the newspaper, the Ordnance poem, when it came out.
In fact, I just have one fun fact that's shared by Anusup Datta. He says that Manto's book, Toba Tek Singh, actually deals with the division of lunatics between India and Pakistan. So there were other people who mentioned that the hockey team was actually split during the partition between India and Pakistan. So same way, even lunatics were sort of split between India and Pakistan.
I'll just add one fun fact, actually. This is something I've posted on Instagram recently. The one thing India retained, without even wanting it, was the name of the Indian Ocean. And the funny thing is, there's been a long-standing sort of, a few nutcases in Pakistan have been, going on about how we need to rename the Indian Ocean. It can't be called the Indian Ocean. It should be called the Indo-Pak Ocean or the Muslim Ocean, or like all these things keep coming out for new names for the Indian Ocean. Of course, India doesn't really care either way. I mean, there's an Instagram post on my Instagram about this anyway.
Oh my goodness.
Do check out Vikram Doctor's Instagram page as well.
Thanks for watching India Wants to Know, India's first panel quiz show. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to get notified about our latest episodes.